Good afternoon and welcome to the Office of Economic Development Business Information Session. My name is Margaret McGee and I'm the Business Services Manager. Business services assist entrepreneurs and business owners in starting and growing their business. We help navigate through the different departments within city government to obtain permits and licenses. We also connect the business community with organizations that can provide technical assistance, incentives, resources, and other beneficial programs in operating a business. We host business information sessions throughout the year, and topics are gathered from entrepreneurs, surveys, and information we collect from the business community. In this session, we'll learn more about tax ID numbers and what's required once you actually issued one. Today, we are pleased to have Mr. Aaron Steele, IRS Stakeholder Liaison, and Ms. Romy Samuel, City of New Orleans Collector of Revenue. To keep down distractions, attendees, please turn off your videos and mute your speakers. Please place all your questions in a chat box and they'll be answered when the opportunity allows. All handouts provided to me will be shared within 24 to 48 hours after the meeting has ended. Now I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Steele, followed by Ms. Samuel.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am Aaron Steele with the Internal Revenue Service in the department that we call Stakeholder Liaison. Basically, our function is to help tax professionals work with their business clients in making sure that they understand the tax laws or the changes and try to gauge from them if there are any issues they are having with the Internal Revenue Service. And basically, if their clients are having any issues, we try to go back and try to figure out what those issues are and how we can get those issues resolved. So we like to say it's a two-way street as to we want to give our information out to them, but on the same hand, we want them to tell us what things in the service that are not working correctly. Before I get started, I gotta always thank Margaret for inviting the Internal Revenue Service to be a part of the business information session. This is a vital way as to way we are able to achieve our mission of helping not only tax professionals, but also the small business owners such as yourself. So the topic that we're going to discuss today is employer identification number. We're going to discuss how it works, who can get an EIN, what you need, when to get an EIN, the ways that you can apply, and we're going to talk about the responsible party, the entities, and we're going to talk about some of the common businesses that will use an EIN. So the first thing, let's talk about how you can get an EIN. And I want you to make sure you understand all of the information that I will discuss today. I've provided you the information, the background information that goes with it. So at the end of the day, what I want you to basically have is a good resource guide. And at the end, that's what I actually call it, is a resource guide that helps you to understand how to get your EIN, when you should get it, and what you need to do with it. So the first handout that I gave to you that you will get is it's actually on our website, where you can go on our website and it's a source that's called Get an Employer Identification Number, and it tells you how you can get it. And basically, you can go on that link, provide us all of the information. It's going to ask you some questions of the information that we're going to need. If you're able to answer all of those questions and work all the way through the system, you will get your EIN at the end. So I always want to make sure I tell you that Once you get ready to go on the site to get your EIN, make sure you have all of the information that you need. Make sure you have access to a printer so that you can print that out. But we've got a way that if you fail to print it out, a way that you can go back in and retrieve it at a later date. Understand that when you're applying for the application, you have to complete the application in one session. You can't save the information and then come back at a later date and complete it. If there's any inactivity within 15 minutes, it will time session you out and you will have to start the process over again. But as I said earlier, if you're able to go from start to finish with answering all of the information, providing all of the information that's required, at the end of it, you will be able to print your EIN. Now, let's talk about who can use the tool. The main things that we need to make sure is that your principal business is located in the United States or in a U.S. territory of the United States. And bear in mind, if your business does not meet these two requirements, you can still apply for an EIN. You just can't use this tool. The other thing that we know that you need to do is you need to make sure you're a responsible party. If you're not the responsible party, you need to have someone who is an authorized representative to be the responsible party, or you need to have the responsible party's social security number. So again, you're getting ready to apply for it. You want your business name. You want who the responsible party is. You want their social security number, and then you want to start the application process. If your principal place of business is outside of the United States, you cannot use the tool that I want you to use, but you can apply by phone, fax, or you can mail it in. So you still can get it. You just can't use this tool that I want you to use that I think is the easiest and quickest way to get it. One of the things that I want you to be mindful of businesses or entities that tell you, I can help you to get your EIN for a fee. It's actually free on our website. So you really shouldn't have to pay someone else to do something that you can do for yourself. They know your business better than you know your business. So why expend that funds when you can when you can do it yourself? Now, let's talk about what you need. We talked about where you can go, how you can put in the information. At the end, you can get it printed out. We've talked about who can do it, business that's in the U.S. or a U.S. territory. Now, let's talk about the business types. What you want to do is you want to start out, make sure you have your social security number or your tax ID number of the responsible party that's going to be in control of the business. We keep saying that responsible party, and I'll give you some information as to how that works. Or, as I told you earlier, if you want someone else to pay for it, then you have to designate that person or entity as the third party designee, and you're basically going to give them all of your information. They're going to handle the process of doing it. One of the things that I want you to be mindful of is when you're applying for your EIN, the business name, and you want to watch out for this. The business name must conform to certain formatting rules. So let me give you an example. If you say you want your business to be Aaron's -S air condition, the hyphen it might not take. So you will make sure that it meets the formatting rules, but you can come back at a later date and say you want your business to be Aaron doing business as Aaron's -air condition. So there's a way as to how you can do it. The tool is available Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 1 a.m., Saturday, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., Sunday, 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. It's designed that way so that when we, at the end of the day, when we get those information, how we can roll it up the next day. But as I said earlier, if you go on there and you can provide all of the information, you will get that EIN at the end of that session. Here's one thing that I strongly recommend everybody does. Make sure you form your entity through the state before you apply for your EIN with the Internal Revenue Service. If you don't, your entity with your state, if you don't form the entity with your state first, your EIN application may be delayed. So I just want to make sure, get with the state first, form that entity, then come with the Internal Revenue Service and apply for your EIN. Now, let's talk about who can get that EIN. Limited liability partnerships, corporation. Told you earlier, form that entity with the state first. The reason why you want to get the EIN is because when you hire employees, you're going to have to do the employment tax return. So you can't do that employment tax return on your Social Security number. And really, you got to think about it from this standpoint. You would not want to provide all of your employees with your Social Security number. So you want to get that EIN number so that when you issue those W-2s, when you issue those 1099s, you using that to file those forms as opposed to your Social Security number. When you get ready to pay your city sales tax, your excise tax, you want to have that number. The other thing you want to make sure you do, once you get that number, you want to file all the required tax returns. I was in a meeting last week, I think August the 7th, and the state gave a presentation, and one of the presentation was they're focusing on a new tax that's come on in the city of New Orleans, that it's for something about how food is processed, and at a certain income level that requires that return to be filed. And their records are showing that more returns should be filed than what are filed. So they're getting out trying to educate individuals in New Orleans that this new tax applies to them. Told you earlier, if you can't apply for it on the system that I want you to use, you can also apply by phone or fax, or you can actually mail it in. Okay? Let's talk about some of the common entities that use the EIN. Single member limited liability companies, estates and trusts, parent companies forming subsidiaries, or employer retirement plans. All of these are entities that commonly use the EIN. I told you we were going to talk about the responsible party and how important that is. Here is how the instructions define the responsible party. The instructions say it's generally the person with day-to-day control of the entity applying for the EIN. So you want someone who has, I call skin in the game. That's the responsible party. The individual identified as a responsible party should have a level of control over or entitlement to the funds or assets in the entity that is a practical matter that enables the individual directly or indirectly to control, manage, or direct the entity and the disposition of its funds or assets. You want someone who is hands-on, has firsthand knowledge of what's going on with that business or your business to be the responsible party. The instructions also state that if more than one person can be the responsible party, then it's on the business to tell us who is the responsible party. We're not concerned as to who you choose, or we don't control that. All we say is when we come in and we say we want to talk to the responsible party, that person has firsthand knowledge of what's going on with the business. Let's talk about the responsible party's EIN. You see on here, the responsible party must be an individual, and you provide us with that individual's social security number or their ITIN number that can be put on line 7B, and you're telling us who that person is. The instructions will tell you that no longer can you, the entity, use the EIN as a responsible party. For example, a corporation no longer can be named as a responsible party on line 7A. Think about it this way. I've got Aaron's AC. I can't put Steele's AC as a responsible party, and then we go to Steele's AC, and Steele AC tells us Aaron's AC is a responsible party. What that does is that puts us in a circle that we don't want to be in. And when we say is, what that does is that allows us to curb the use of shell companies for tax avoidance purposes. So this changes will be, so that we understand who we're actually going to speak to. We want to know who our responsible party is going to be. I hope you have said. Okay. Next thing that we want to do, if you need to update the responsible party, think about it from this standpoint. You filled out the application. You told us who the responsible party was. And the responsible party, we've been contacting them throughout the year, and we're saying we need this or we need that. And the responsible party takes his or her Christmas vacation and comes back and says, I no longer want to be the responsible party. You need to name someone else. When that person does that, you have 60 days from that time frame in order to tell us who the new responsible party is. Or it could be a situation where the responsible party leaves the business. If that happens, let's say you've got a law firm or an accounting firm, and there are several tax managing partners. But let's say one of the partners who was identified as a responsible party leaves out and goes and start their own firm. If that happens, 60 days from that date, you have to tell us who your new responsible party is. Last thing, and this is what I'm hoping everyone will do. There's a feature that we have that we call business tax account. What I want everyone to do for your business and for your individual is to go and set up a business tax account. When you set up that, and when you apply for your new employer identification number, we will issue what is called a CP 575A-J. This is a notice of a new employer identification number. I told you earlier, if you applied for your EIN and you failed to print it out, then what we can do is we can issue you a substitute EIN letter, which is a 147C. But if you have that business account, you can go online and you can print out a digital CP 575, which you can use that to give to the banks, anybody, that institution that's looking for you to have written confirmation that you have an EIN from the Internal Revenue Service. So I want to make sure everyone gets a business tax account. As I told you earlier, everything that I've discussed, I've given to you, and I want it to be a resource that you can use to take you from applying for your EIN to getting your EIN and printing it out. This is what that notice would look like. This is IRS Notice CP 575. It's a your employer identification number. It lists the name of your business, your address, the date, and now you can give this to anybody who's going to want to know, do you have an employer identification number? They want to know, are you really a business that is registered with the state of Louisiana, is registered with the Internal Revenue Service, you have an EIN, and now they can do business with you. Told you earlier, I was giving you the resources. You will get a copy of the employee identification number PowerPoint, everything that I've covered. You will get the document that takes you to get an employer identification number. You will get the SS4 and the instructions. You will get the Form 8822B, updating the responsible party. Last but not least, you will get a tax account number, information to take you to get you a business tax account. But not only do you want to use this for your business, there's also an individual tax account. Let's say you filed your tax returns on April 15th, and we're now on August 13th, and you haven't heard from the Internal Revenue Service. If you have that individual tax account, you can go on that and it will let you know where we are in the process of processing your return, whether we've received it, whether we need some information, what's holding it up. All of these things is readily available to you online. What we're trying to do is, we like to say that at the IRS, we're trying to get you from the standpoint of the way you do your bank account. I can go on my bank account and I can look at it and I can tell what deposits have been made, what bills have been paid that I have automatically draft to know what's going on with my banking. We want you to have the same access to your business and your individual. I really can't see the chat the way this is, so any questions?
Actually, we don't have any questions as of right now, so we'll go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Samuel.
Thank you. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Romy Sam. Can you all see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, good. My name is Romy Samuel. I am the Collector of Revenue for the City of New Orleans Department of Finance. We handle everything sales tax and business license related for the City of New Orleans. That's the local tax. One, I want to thank you all for choosing New Orleans as the city to open your business. Thank you, Margaret, for the invitation. And just as Mr. Steele pointed out, this presentation, and Margaret as well, this presentation will be provided to you all after this meeting. So we'll get started on opening a business in the city of New Orleans. Are you all still there? All right.
Yes.
Okay. So you've done much of what Mr. Steele pointed out earlier with the Secretary of State, with the IRS, EIN. What do I do now on the local level? The City of New Orleans has several requirements for businesses that are located both in the parish and outside of the parish. Let's talk about what you need to get your local credentials. So the city requires that you register the business. And if you're located within Orleans Parish, which is domiciled here, you are required to get an occupational license. Now, the occupational license is the general business license. It could be for any type business that you are envisioning opening, from contracting, construction to restaurants, you name it, we have a license for it. Okay. Now, some businesses require not only the occupational license, but additional permits. So, say for instance, if you are interested in opening a restaurant who wants to serve alcohol, you will have to get both the occupational license as well as the alcohol beverage permits. Okay. We will assign tax ID numbers on the local level. We call those account numbers. There are sales tax requirements, and you will have to work with other agencies. So who do you contact? These are the folks that you will reach out to start the process on the local level. For the occupational license and the ABO permits, alcohol permits, you will contact Safety and Permits. There's a division located within the Safety and Permits department called One Stop. They do original intake of business applications, etc. They also handle building permits, zoning approvals, those type things. They will have to weigh in on whether or not your business is a permitted use at a certain location. They have the city, carved up in different layers as it relates to commercial, light industrial, residential. So they will make sure that the type of business you're operating is congruent to the area that you'd like to go in. For instance, if there is such a thing as a home-based business, so, some people can work from home, operate their business there, but Safety and Permits will not allow you to maybe operate a heavy equipment company in your neighborhood, because you can see how that could be disruptive to a residential area. So they do have zoning requirements that you will have to apply, submit the application for the business license. They will make sure it is a permitted use in that particular area at that location. They are located right across from City Hall. If you all are familiar with City Hall at 1300 Perdido Street, Safety and Permits is located in the building across the street. So all the contact information is here. Next, you'll work with the Bureau of Revenue. What happens is Safety and Permits will accept the original licenses. Once all the approvals are obtained, the handoff goes to Revenue. We manage the renewals of the annual occupational license and the monthly sales tax filings. We help with the sales tax administration. We handle administration, and enforcement. So we do have walk-in hours. I would encourage any of you, even before you start, if you have questions, you can come down to City Hall, on the first floor of City Hall, to the Bureau of Revenue, and just talk to us. Some people just need to understand what the expectations are, and we're here to help on that. The State Sanitarian Services, which is the state health department, they issue permits for food handling and things like that. So if you are a restaurant or a bar or a baker, anything with food service, food handling, you will need to get a health permit in order to operate that business. So what is the process? We say it's a simple path, but for you all, it could be daunting because this is not something you're familiar with. But what we have here is you apply for the occupational license or whatever type of license and permits you'll need through the One Stop. You select the business description that fits what you plan to do. The City of New Orleans has approximately 700 descriptions. So whatever type business you want to apply for, I'm sure we have a description for it. But when you do come in, or apply online, we ask that you be very thorough in what you plan to do, because we need to be able to fit you into a specific category. And why that's important is that your annual license is based on that description. So we have several tables that we use in order to renew the annual occupational licenses. There's a retail table, there's a professional table, there's a flat fee table, and the license fees differ. So we want to make sure that we fit you into the proper table because you provide to us what the description is. You know best what you'd like to operate, and we're going to make sure that we register you accordingly. Okay, the next step would be inspections. Physical locations, especially restaurants, bars, and things like that, safety and permits will send out zoning inspectors to make sure that the facility is habitable and it's going to be safe for not only you, but for customers. So they will come in and conduct zoning inspections. You will most likely have health inspections, possibly fire marshal inspections for capacity. But what I would encourage you to do is to keep those appointments. The sooner you have the inspection, you're that much closer to obtaining the local approval to operate. If, in fact, there are deficiencies that you need to address as a result of those inspections, I would encourage you to get on those as quickly as possible and communicate with your inspector to make sure you're addressing those deficiencies that they've documented. The next thing is once the application has been approved, you pay the required fees. For occupational license, the minimum fee is $50. Of course, that is your base fee, but if you go up to, your sales go up to exceed maybe $3 million, the fee can go up to as much as $6,000 a year. Okay? So the $50 initial fee is what you'll pay for the temporary license. Once you've operated for 2 months, you are required to project your annual license fee. So that $50 will cover sales up to $60,000 a year. Anything over that, it's in increments, 60, 70, 80, until you start getting into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then it goes up. Okay? We'd like you to stay compliant. So that means learn what the expectations are from the city's perspective, what we will look for from you so that you can stay in compliance with us. Understand what tax forms you need to file, how often you need to file the renewals, and any other ongoing requirement for your specific type of business. So these are questions every business should understand. So let's go through a few. Do I need to file taxes? If you are conducting retail sales, that means you're selling merchandise, food, it's a transactional exercise, you are considered an agent for the city of New Orleans. If we give you and approve an occupational license, we are forging a partnership. Okay? What we expect you to do in exchange for that occupational license is work with us as it relates to sales tax. What that means is you agree to include sales tax as a part of the transaction when you sell things in your business. But on the flip side, the expectation from the city is that you remit the sales tax timely. Okay, that is the general understanding of that agency agreement. Where do I file the taxes? The city of New Orleans has its own portal and it's listed at the bottom of the page. The city's website is NOLA.gov. You can go on and there is a box that says pay taxes. You'll see both property and sales taxes. You select the appropriate tax and then follow through with those transactions. How do I know how much to report? We encourage you to keep accurate records, not only for the city, but for you. If you're unable to enlist outside help, such as an accountant or a bookkeeper, we ask that you learn what you need to do in order to maintain proper records. The Bureau of Revenue is open 5 days a week from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the evening. We take walk-ins at any point during the day. You can come in and sit with us, and we can show you how to go through the tax form. We can explain that to you. We cannot fill it out for you, but we certainly can walk you through the form, answer those questions, help you as much as we can, and then make sure you understand exactly what needs to be done. There are extensive instructions on the back of the form that can help you as well. The online platform is simpler. If you don't want to manually complete the form and mail that in, you can go on the city's website, the e-services portal, put in the necessary figures, which is like your gross sales and your deductions, and we'll calculate the tax for you. And we can complete the transaction by credit card, debit card, or ACH transactions. If I am located outside the parish, do I still need to file? Depending on the type of business you're operating, if you're selling merchandise and you're shipping it into Orleans Parish, yes, the answer is yes. Wherever the merchandise comes to rest, wherever you ship it to, that's where the taxes are owed. So if you're in Orleans Parish, you ship to Jefferson Parish, you'll have to register with those surrounding parishes to pay that rate of sales tax, okay? When will I receive my tax ID number? When you are approved for the occupational license, the City of New Orleans Bureau of Revenue issues a unique account number. It's a unique identifier that you use to file your local sales taxes. Okay, you also use that number to renew your occupational license annually. Okay? When are filings due? Later in the presentation, I'll go through the important dates. The general rule is sales taxes are due the first of the following month, but we do give you a grace period before it becomes delinquent or late, but I'll explain that later. What happens if I do not file? Well, if you do not file, there could be penalties there will be, penalties and interest assessed. And we don't want to eat into your bottom line, honestly. We want you to maximize your profits, but if you're filing late and you have additional penalties and interest, that reduces your profit margin. So we ask that you learn, what you need to do, keep up with those important dates so that you're not sending us money, because we will penalize you if you don't file on time, but that also reduces your bottom line. So we want to make sure, you maintain a healthy, active business, and you'll just have to, certainly, we can explain to you what that looks like as it relates to the sales tax implications. Okay? These are the forms, some of the forms that you'll run into. On the left, there's the occupational license renewal form. That's only filed once per year. The occupational license is good for a calendar year. So anytime you apply for a business, be it January or any month thereafter, the license will expire December 31st. Okay? On the right, the sales tax return. Generally, we default to a monthly filing frequency, but if your business qualifies for certain criteria, you can request a quarterly filing of the sales tax return. Businesses who can qualify for quarterly filing are under $60,000 in gross sales annually. So it's typically your smaller businesses. So you won't have the monthly requirement to do so. You can opt in for the quarterly requirement. Some important dates here. As I just mentioned, the occupational licenses expire December 31st of each year. We do give you a grace period, have to renew, because the current year's license is based on what you did the year before. Your gross sales, gross receipts, gross commissions from the previous year. So it does take you a little time to close out the prior year. So we will not penalize you for the first 2 months of the year. But if you go past March 1st without renewing, then you will be subjected to penalties and interest. So you do get a grace period in order to renew. It gives you time to close out the previous year and then submit your renewal. This can be done online or in person. If you do it in person, we actually print up the license for you in the office. If you do it online, it takes up to 10 to 15 days to get the license in the mail. Okay? The sales tax filings, as I mentioned, are due the first of each month, but because you are closing out the prior month, it does not become late until after the 20th. Okay? So if you've sold things in January, it's actually you're due to file the sales tax return February 1st, but you get between the 1st and the 20th to complete that return. On the 21st of February, you will be subjected to late payment fees. Okay, so we do give you a 20-day grace period in order for you to close out your prior month, get your sales together, and file that the next month. Okay, ABO permits expire each year on May 31st. So that's the permit that you will get if you're selling alcohol in conjunction with the occupational license. The ABO permits expire May 31st, but they are due to renew almost 2 months ahead. Because the reason for that is we never want you to be without the alcohol beverage credentials, because the state, they do quite a bit of inspections as it relates to the alcohol tobacco control agencies. So we want to give you enough time and the city enough processing time to issue the current year's permits prior to the prior year's expiring, so that you'll never be without your credentials. Now, the ABO renewal is due by April 1st, but you will be subject to late payment fees if it is not filed by April 5th. Okay, so you have to keep those things in mind. Also, we have vendors who participate in special events, and I failed to mention for the occupational license, vendors who come to festivals and, participate in Mardi Gras, they are required to have occupational licenses as well. Okay? For special event vendors who may want to participate in several festivals, you only have to pay for one occupational license, and that will last you through the year. So if you start at an event in January, that special event like occupational license will last through December. Now, for the sales taxes, vendors are required to file sales taxes at the conclusion of each event or festival, and those are generally due 30 days after then. If you do not pay timely, you could forfeit your deposit if it is required for that particular event, or the promoters who invited you to participate, their sales tax deposit could be subject to forfeiture. Okay? So to recap, this is your new business checklist. 1, you confirm what type of business you're interested in and explain that to us thoroughly so that we can code you properly and give you the proper occupational code for your license. You apply through the one-stop. Oh, what did I do? Sorry. I apologize.
No problem.
I apologize. Click too fast. Okay. You apply through the one-stop for whatever type licenses or permits that you'll need. That also includes trade licenses. If you're an electrician, a plumber, any one of those trade licenses, you also apply through safety and permits, the one stop for those, okay? You complete the applicable inspections. Make sure you keep communication lines open with the inspector and the department to make sure that you are addressing any deficiencies, because the sooner those are rectified, the sooner we can issue you the temporary to open. Okay? Pay the required fees upon approval. Establish and understand sales tax requirements. And make sure to keep track of those important dates, the renewal dates, the filing deadlines, etc. And keep all contact information and your records current with the City of New Orleans. Listen, we are partners with you. We want to make sure that you do well, because when you do well, we do well. Okay? Because you contribute to our tax base, and we certainly appreciate that. The taxes that you are collecting and remitting to the city, they provide critical city services. We support the Orleans Parish School Board because we collect sales taxes and share with school board and the Regional Transit Authority, sanitation services, NOPD, fire department, you name it, those sales taxes contribute to it. So we certainly appreciate your considering Orleans Parish for, to operate your business here. We are here to help. First floor of City Hall, the Bureau of Revenue. You can walk in anytime, ask a question. We have customer service agents ready to help. Okay? So that's it for me. If we have any questions.
Yeah, so now is the time for you to ask questions. This is definitely a very important, essential part of operating a business. Everybody needs to know about taxes. So if you guys have anything that you want to know, you have the business organizations right now to answer those questions for you. So please don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Let's get them questions going.
Listen, let me say this, Margaret.
Mhm.
What we know is that business owners are very good at what they do, be it is that cooking food, is that selling clothing, styling, whatever that is. We don't expect you to know everything on the tax side. Okay, so that's why we're here. So there's no crazy questions. Just let us, just pose those to us and we'll get you. If we don't know, we'll certainly get you the answer, but we should know. Okay, thanks. I
Yes.
see. hmm
Yeah, you could go ahead.
So the alcohol mobile permits and licenses, alcohol right now is prohibited on city streets. Okay, they're requiring that you have a permanent location for those now. We do see this occurring, during second lines and things like that. That is a prohibited exercise. That's not a licensed exercise. We do have second line permits for food, soft drinks, that sort of thing. But alcohol right now today is prohibited on city streets. Okay? Setting up for events and festivals. Ms. Price, what do you want to know on that? All right, I'm gonna move on to Crystal. Yes, can I be licensed for events? Is that you're on mute? You're on mute.
If I was planning to do parties, events, and things like that.
Okay, I missed the first part. You were on mute.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Yes, so I was planning to do parties, events, pop-ups. Is a few places here that have those workspaces who ask for vendors to come in to do pop-ups. So I was trying to see how do I get a license pertaining to that.
There is a new pop-up permit. Safety and
Mm-hmm.
permits will have information on that where you would have an agreement with whatever operation that is currently there that is inviting you. I think you have to provide a letter saying that they approve or invited you to be there, and you would get the pop-up permit in order to do that.
Okay.
Now, for parties and things like that, if you're providing food, alcohol, there's a catering permit that,
Okay.
it's not at one specific location, catering. The nature of that permit is that you kind of move around and you provide whatever services are required at the event. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, Crystal, you there?
Hi,
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, what sort of third party platforms are you talking about?
Okay, so I file taxes for several different businesses, and one thing I'm seeing with restaurants is many of them are hosting, their own in-house like ordering and online ordering. But if they integrate things like third-party, like sales channels, such as like Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, um, Easy Cater, they're all paying sales taxes differently. There have been changes since the Affordable Care, or not Affordable Care Act, sorry, the Big Beautiful Bill that that they need to that those companies are now responsible for filing sales taxes on the sales made through our businesses, but they're all paying them in different increments and in different ways, and I'm struggling with how to report the most effectively.
Okay, well, we can actually follow up on that because that's going to be a more detailed conversation.
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering if I were to take this into the office, is that something that you guys would be able to guide me through?
Absolutely. You can
Okay.
come into us. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I understand that's hefty for today, but
Okay. Okay.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Had
Any other
one.
questions? Oh,
I
there we
had
go.
one point of clarification. Mr. Steele had brought up the state filing of the Louisiana. It's called the New Orleans Exhibition Hall Authority tax. He brought up that the state found out that there were not many people reporting it in Orleans Parish. Let me give you some insight on that one. It is actually a state tax. It's tax that you file with the State Department of Revenue. It's called the New Orleans Exhibition Hall Authority tax because we have the larger state facilities here. And they levy a tax on food and beverage businesses. You have to pay a little extra if you sell food and beverages over a certain amount. So if you're a restaurant who sells over $250,000 in gross sales annually, you will charge an extra half cent, 0.5% on your sales, and that money goes to the state. It goes up incrementally. At 500,000, you can charge. I'm sorry, it was 0.5 for 250,000, 0.5 for 500,000. I'm sorry. So if you go to McDonald's and you see that they've charged you 11%, that the difference is the exhibition hall authority, right? Because of course McDonald's is more than $1 million, so they're actually able to levy an extra penny on the tax, but that doesn't go to the city of New Orleans, it goes to the state. So even though it's named the New Orleans Exhibition Hall Authority tax, that is something that the state levies that they collect. We don't get a portion of that at all. Okay.
Crystal, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, hi. I do have a business that has been closed for a few years. I'm looking at my profile now. It says it was closed July in 2024. And I'm still being required to file $0 returns monthly. I'm just wondering did I miss a step?
Is that through the parish e-file or is that through the city?
Salestax.nola.gov.
Okay. We can check on that one. Just email me. I know Miss Margaret could actually provide my email to you.
Okay.
Just give me the business name and we can work on that for you.
Okay. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.
I see there's one question. Is there any permits needed for rental property owners? No, not at this point. We do not license. Now, if you're a management company, a large company that is managing several properties, yes. But if it's your personal property that you're leasing out, no, an occupational license is not required. For long-term tenants. Now, if you have short-term rentals, like Airbnbs, the answer is you will need a short-term rental permit in order to operate those short-term rentals. That is also applied through the One Stop, and you have to pay sales tax on those transactions, okay? What about midterm rentals? Anything over 30 days. So we consider long-term. Does that answer you, Stacy? Okay. Okay. All right, Margaret, that's it. I mean, I don't think we have.
Any other questions? Okay, I want to thank Mr. Steele and Ms. Samuel for taking the time out to be with us today, and for you all for joining. Within 5 to 10 business days, this session will be added to the Office of Economic Development YouTube channel. Again, all handouts provided to me will be shared within 24 to 48 hours. This will conclude this series of business information sessions. Please keep your eye out for future sessions, and I hope you all will join us the next time. Again, thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.